not to sound philosophical and once again, but life is a series of moments. My quote unquote love language is actually quality time. If you're gonna come with a problem, please come with a problem and the solution.
Chi. You're the only person that everyone, when you just say chi, they know who it is. You don't have to say chinyota, Mr. Chinyota, Musumukona, just chi. And everyone knows who it is.
Which is why I barely visit Asia, because at least here the name is a bit rare. That side, they're like, yes, yes.
I've got a friend.
It's like being called Peter, that side.
I know, man. And I've got a friend who, because of my name, calls me Chi. And I always want to say, like, no, there's a guy who has the copyright to those three letters.
Now you know how I feel.
Just call me Chilu.
Now you know how I feel, because I get tempted at least twice a week to do crimes in your name. Because they're always like, Chilu. I'm like, well, if that's who you think it is.
I told you that story about one of your clients in Joburg.
Oh, right.
So for anybody who's unaware of this story, because it's just between Chi and I so far, but let's let you all in on this story. I went to do a voiceover in Rivonia at a studio, and I got there, and then the owner of the studio hurriedly comes through and sees me, and I can see the disappointment on her face, as she sees me. And she says, no, I was told Chi has come to do a voiceover. And I was how can Chi come all the way from Zambia without telling me?
Oh, yeah.
So she just heard Chilu, Zambia, whatnot, and made the connection. But it's actually somebody who was so looking forward to see
shout out to Miss P. In fact, you reminded me I need to drop her a line.
There we go.
Yeah, I need to drop her a line. But I'm sure she was equally happy to meet you as well.
Nah.
The inspiration behind the shorter version. You should have been like, yo, I'm the OG over here, bro. Why are you dealing with counterfeits?
I wish that were the case, but that wasn't the case. But thank you for coming through. We know it's been a long time coming.
I know, right? Yeah. Pleasure, though. Pleasure.
And it's great. Bro, why don't you just start out there's many things that people might not know about you, because people know Kawalala Party because you are in the spaces on a daily basis. And once you plant yourself into people's lives, because you are part of their lives, when you do a show like you did every single day, they know one side of you. They know the side of you that's delivering entertainment, the side of you that's debating current affairs topics, but sometimes we don't zero in on the person as in the person. So before we go into biographical, your background, there's one interesting thing you did recently. You mentioned when we were leading up to this interview that you started this thing of taking your kids, your boys, to see what you're doing.
Right.
And I thought that was so profound. Maybe I'm thinking too deeply about it. You might be like, no, dude, it's shallow. But what's the motivation behind something like that?
I must say it comes from, I think, what we find joy in as parents, right? But sometimes we don't actually recognize where that joy is coming from. And the truth is, the pleasurable part about parenting is seeing them take shape, seeing their personalities come out. Right. And you're like, wow, this is a whole nother person under my tutelage, under my supervision, and that is the joy in parenting, is because you are raising this individual. They've got a mind of their own, and you see this whole thing sprout. Like, if you think gardening is fun, raise you some kids, so it basically stems from that. And I want them to be, aware of who I am as a person, why I do what I do, apart from just the dad part. So it was so funny when we were getting their passports.
Yeah.
And I think that was also a reality that sort of sparked it. Because
they did the interview as well.
Yeah, they did the interview and all that stuff. So and they're below 13. So my youngest one is 8. So they're like, tell me your father's full names. And they're like, Daddy Chi. My eldest one got it like spot on, you know. So things like that, you're like, let me also show them the side that dad is also a human being. And of course, as they get older, your relationship with children also changes. You want them to also see you as a human being. You want to see them as a human being, because even as a parent in the formative years, you are laying down that foundation. You're like, these are the rules. These are the foundations. These are the blocks. Do not, deviate outside these norms or these parameters. And then you start to realize, as I said, the joy of parenting is that they have their own take, their own opinions. So I believe in exposing them to as much of life as I can. And that's the wish of every parent, is if you can expose them to as many things and let them find joy. And also, as I said, just understand me as a person and, where those money for the Jordans come from.
But with two follow-on questions, and then I'll move away from that. But one is, are you a strict dad? And then two, like watching you, you've said that they've got different personalities that you're seeing shine.
Yeah.
Any of them like starting to feel to you like they might be career-wise very keen and curious about what you do? Do you see them kind of gravitating towards media, business, that kind of?
No, definitely my firstborn. I mean, careers day. For the past couple of years, he's always been like, I want to go out and do something, like either be a DJ, or I want to be like a film director or something like that, something in the arts. And then my last born as well is very, very artistic. He's got like his own comic book series that he's working on, which is very interesting because when I was his age, that's what I did for pocket money. That was like my first business was, because of course we didn't have computers the way computers are now. So I would draw comics with like 3 of my best friends in primary school. I'm talking like grade 5, grade 6. So we would draw comics and then photocopy those and then sell them to like kids in our class. So he's taken up to that. Maybe not the monetizing part yet, but I'll let him figure that out. But the artistic part. And then, as I said, my firstborn as well is just, he likes to be in front of people. He's not a Leo, but he has those Leo traits from dad. Where he doesn't shy away from like taking the lead. So I am seeing a lot of that in them. But as I said, anything they want to do in life, I just hope that I can show them and convince them and teach them that just be the best at it and enjoy it, and you'll be all right.
It's interesting, those traces of who we become, you find them, like you're saying, with you in the comics when you're younger. So I mean, like, shout out to Chisenga Katongo, aka formerly known as Crisis, because he's also artistically very gifted if you look at him. And even with me with the voiceover stuff, only when I was writing my book did I remember that when I was, I think, in grade 5. My brother and I, we narrated like a Winnie the Pooh audiobook.
You see what I'm saying?
Before our time, but
you see what I'm saying?
A little Winnie the Pooh book, and we read into a microphone, created the characters, and did all that.
And
stuff.
It all goes back to that when you realize, like, oh, those were the formative things that I was doing, and to take it a step back just into what we're talking about right now, and you will realize that a lot of that inspiration was even because of the environment you were in. The positions that your parents put you in, or your elder sibling. So even those formative individuals around you led you to that moment and brought that out of you. Am I a strict dad? I think I'm set in my ways, and they get that very clearly. But I am the clown parent, I'll tell you right now. Their mom is like, you need to talk to them. I'm like, yes, I will. But 8 seconds into it, I'm gonna be cracking a joke, right? Yeah, but you know what it is they do have respect for both their
and that's what's important.
They do have respect, because even when their mom is like, I'm gonna tell your dad, and I'm like, what do you think I'm gonna do though? But suddenly that's a threat, and they respond to the threat. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I think I have set my rules, I have set my ways. I like to think I'm raising kings, because I got boys so far. So I like to think I'm raising gentlemen, and there is set rules. The world is a crazy place. We know that, and even what they should look for in other people, in friends, in business partners, eventually in life partners. Those are foundations that I hope I'm very, very strict on. So that they at least have those, foundations, those bases set, which is very important, because a lot of people right now are not getting that. That's why you find there's a lot of irony, right? I could wax lyrically about what independence looks like these days. And bottom line is it's very destructive. The independence that we have packaged is very destructive. And you find that a lot of people are even like hiding fundamental flaws or fundamental inner crisis.
With optics that kind of show it.
You know what I'm saying?
Curated.
There's a lot of it going around right now, both for males and females. So as I said, in raising my boys, I try to let them know, like, yo, this is right, this is wrong. There's that term like my truth. And no such thing as your truth, fam. Like, there's no such thing. Try be in court and tell them your truth and see where that gets you. So as a society, we've ignored some of these fundamentals. So I hope I nailed those in, on a daily basis.
That court reference, I'm going to lead into the fact that you went to law school.
Yes, I did.
But I was going to ask you questions around that. But now it just hit me. We had this conversation before the cameras went on about, you cracked a joke and there was just a lot of energy. And I'm thinking, we did touch on the fact that if it went back on radio, it would bring a ray of sunshine, because there's all sorts of stuff that you have in you to share, whether it be humor, whether it be thought-provoking things, whether it be life experiences, heartbreaks, victories, whatnot. And currently that's not on air.
Yeah.
Are you in your thinking of how you're channeling all that to the betterment of the people who care about you, or who care about just, great entertainment, or care about having a meaningful connection with somebody who's on a similar frequency as you?
Yeah.
Where's that energy? Where's this stuff?
Wow, that is a very, very deep question to unpack.
I'm speaking it to you, and I'm speaking to myself.
Yeah. No, and you're true to that, because you have described it for what a lot of people don't understand what we do, and that's energy.
Yes, it's an energy.
It's an energy, fam. It's an energy. And that's why I'm like, it's not a career. It's not a job. It's an energy.
Yes.
That is why you'll be in the editing suite for like 2 days straight.
Yes.
because you're like, I need to get this off my chest. It's an energy. When it comes to I'd say communication and broadcasting, and going back to the fact that, yes, I did go to law school, and I did that because of fundamentals that I've managed to achieve through radio, through media. And that is being able to get your opinions heard and being able to contribute to society's shaping. All right. So I'm by no means a perfect person, but that also helps me keep myself in check. And I think a lot of it as well, because as you said, the energy, it's been a very crazy couple of years for me mentally. Those close to me will understand what I'm talking about. But it's been a crazy journey, mentally, and highs and lows, and probably the lowest lows mentally that I've had to come out of. And it's things like this that have gotten me out of that rut. And it's because we have found ourselves in a position where we have to analyze things, right? So you are also at some point forced to analyze yourself. So it's played on past just the microphone. It's played on past just broadcasting to the masses or talking to the masses. But in doing that, you also realize that, some of the things I've learned in my quiet corner, in my highs, in my lows, as you have described it, you're like, you need to put that out there. So I am currently exploring ways to put that out there. In fact, not even exploring, I've found ways, and I'm working on those and developing them. So definitely in the next couple of months, actually in the next few weeks, there'll be something that will roll out that should form, I don't know, maybe the next 5 years of what I'm going to be doing. But yes, it's going to be. I'm
looking forward to that, man, because I mean, like, we don't link up that much. If we're honest, we can count the number of times we do, but there's that energy, going back to that word, which is so fulfilling. When it's transmitted in person and even on air, there's an authenticity that isn't filtered through pretense, even when it goes through the airwaves. Exactly. And so I'm looking forward, whether it's packaged in a podcast, in a book, or whatever it is. I'm looking forward to that thing. So prepping for the discussion previously, and Levi's close by. He's going to fire a few questions away as well. I went back to a couple of times when you've spoken in person at events that I've been at. So one of them was, that we had that Meet the Industry radio event, which was organized by Bongo Hive.
Right.
And I went back to watching that, and I thought this was so dope for 2012, And then I also thought about how when you presented at the radio summit, I invited you to speak at the Lusaka Radio Summit in 2018.
2018? Wow, time flies.
Yeah, I think it was 2018, 2019, somewhere there.
Yeah.
Huge panel, but your presentation up to now, I could probably still tell you what you said because it was so memorable. And in watching those two things, I realized that, and you might tell me I'm wrong, those were opening statements. Like in court, you know what I mean? The amount of preparation that went into painting the picture. I thought this guy would have made a good lawyer.
I think you and my mom would get along on that point, because anytime we have an argument, she's like, "You are not in a courtroom." she used to say that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, she's like, "This is not a courtroom." And I was like, well, I'll go where I can take my arguments then. To the courtroom it is. So that's interesting.
But there's a lot of prep that goes into it, like which people don't see. And I think it's a lesson to people who are entering the media space.
Right.
And I remember you used to work with my brother. Yeah. I'm speaking more than you, and this is your interview. But you used to work with my brother Mumba. At Hot FM.
Oh man, I owe him so much for just putting me into the game when I got back. Yes.
Oh no, I didn't even know that part.
That was who did my interview for Hot FM. For
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what I wanted to say.
When I left the bank during my lunch break, that was the guy on the other side of the glass I had to sing and dance for.
Wow. But Mumba once said to me, because I was listening to radio, and I just come into Zambia, I was driving, and the interview focused on Casta Semenya something at the time, so I think it was you and Hope doing your thing. And later on, I was having a discussion with Mumba, and he was like, no, Chi prepares. Like he was, waxing lyrical and just kind of bearing testimony to how much prep goes into your work. What's the importance of prep? Now we're doing it like it's Radio 101. For somebody who's listening here, you prep for emceeing, you prep for talks, you prep for panel discussions. Why?
This is a privilege. Anytime somebody gives you their attention, their undivided attention, it is a privilege. There's so much noise in this world. There's so many other things people could be doing other than paying attention to you. So when you have that platform, I'm just talking about even in life in general. As I've said, this is all fed into day-to-day life and career. But even if you talk about communication and relationships, my quote unquote love language is actually quality time. I discovered that. So anybody who gives me time, I try to value that. So even when it comes to you having an audience or having a mic, it's a privilege for you to deliver what you are delivering, and the person is receiving that, and they're giving you their undivided attention. So now take it to broadcasting, take it to speaking on a podium. You owe it to them to not waste their time. Okay. More so when it comes to the career side of things. And it's gotten a bit warped with social media now, because you tend to have a lot of, presenters just echoing opinions that have already been debated 10 times over on social media. So we've forgotten our position, and you walk away from 3-4 hour shows, 2 hour shows. And once again, people have dedicated 3 hours of their life, and you must ask yourself, have they walked away with anything new? Have I presented a new angle on, an old story, a current story? What have I done to reward this person's attention? And if you ask that on a daily basis, you'll be careful with your words. You'll be careful to research what you're talking about, because at the end of the day, time is limited. Yeah. And for someone to give you their time, for me, that's big up, man. And even when it comes to me employing people, I always say yes, I am paying them, but you must, even as a boss, appreciate that this person is helping you on your vision. Yeah. They could be anywhere else. and like respect that, Yeah.
Here's one of the differences. I mean, like a lot of people sometimes might not distinguish where people are different. Here's one between me and you. We're both great communicators, great at doing voiceover and stuff like that. On my end of the fence, I don't, and I can't think of many instances where I've had to go and fish business. Have conversations, I almost said courtroom conversations, but boardroom conversations to acquire resources and all that kind of stuff. That stuff isn't my forte. I'm not good with, those conversations. Other people will bring money my way or whatever, and, we'll talk and stuff like that. You, on the other hand, have also carved a mark in terms of industry by, your ad agency and the media institution that you were involved in and all that kind of stuff. You have obviously thick skin in terms of getting those things to happen. You know what I mean? You're not waiting for things to happen, and it's a very admirable quality.
Thanks.
And so just first of all, salutes to you. You know what I mean? Because some of us are just Mr. RT, you want a voiceover, bring it over here. But you go proactively seeking these things out. You know what I mean? Like unlocking and activating visions, which turn into people getting employment and buildings and structures and all that stuff. It's not easy, but tell me a bit about that side of your life.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because a lot of people don't know that side as well. So a lot of people will be like, okay, we've heard you on an ad, and it probably ends there.
But you're involved in scripting, acquiring the client,
yes,
and all these other
yes, and that has even given rise to a number of other businesses, even away from media and stuff like that. So it becomes boardroom conversations. But once again, it all ties back to the fundamentals of just wanting to get things done. And knowing you have to deliver something. So I think any vision, I don't like to be one of those people that complains in the corner too much, because after I whine and for lack of a better term, bitch about something, I'm like, do I have the power to change it?
Yeah.
That question kind of kicks me very quickly when I complain about stuff. And then if I do, I'm like, okay, roll up your socks and let's get busy. So I think it's been a lot of that. And then also, the industry here is much younger. It's less developed compared to SA or even East African media. So there are a lot of things. I remember even when you had one of your colleagues come down for the same radio summit. Claire Mawisa was spooked. How many jobs do you guys do? That takes a crew of 8 to produce that breakfast show. What do you mean? What do you mean? And it was crazy, because what a lot of people also didn't see was, as that show was going on, I set up my ad agency. So some of the ads, about 50% of the ads you'd hear, my company's made. It meant that I had to pitch the concept. I had to, even if it's not my voice on that ad, we had to produce the ad, and then we have to maybe talk about the product on air, during the breakfast show, and then we also have to monitor it, and then I also have to do a mini report and then take it back, that kind of thing. So I was very fortunate that those gaps were not filled, so I kind of had to do them myself. So it taught me to be more holistic. Which, as I said, coming out of a more developed industry, where you have specialists for specialists. You're forced to do 8 people's jobs. You're forced to do 8 people's jobs. And then also just in the sense of making sure that the industry gets the respect it deserves. A lot of people do think it's a hobby, or it's fun and games or whatever. And that's why I'm it's people who've known me for a long time would be like, what do you mean? Some people are even amazed, what do you mean you can afford to pay rent? It's still from the jokes. You know what I'm saying? It's oh man, I mean, I had this one client, this banking client, and we got a very big deal. It was actually one of the regulating authorities, more than a bank. And the European person on that team was like, oh, we need to do this, and we love your presentation, and let's get it done. And when I was left to now run with the Zambian representative, they were like, "Oh, all this money just for talking." Just for talking. I'm like, yeah, that's no.
Yeah, no, I get that a lot too.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that is what separates. You know, it's like football. It's easy to play, but bloody hard to be good at, right?
Yeah.
Anyone can kick a ball.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna be Messi level, that's a different type of energy commitment you have to do. But is soccer easy? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. Both answers are correct.
So now I'm going to, what are the challenges? Because early on we're talking about how sometimes because people don't understand what this entails, or maybe some people have an expectation because of the industry that we operate in, such that when you come up with a maverick idea, they side eye you and maybe try to frustrate that particular thing. What are some of the things that you call like pushback things that have kind of,
I think there's still a lot of pettiness.
Yeah.
Yes. and usually when I'm asked that question, I always go for like, the clients and the corporates. Oh, they don't pay us enough and blah, blah, blah. And they're multinationals. They should know better and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to talk to like us, what we can change in our corner. There's still a lot of pettiness. I mean, you have projects that are literally blueprints of stuff I've done or stuff my team has done. And instead of just saying, yo, can we pick your brain or whatever, they'll literally rather hire like international guy I've used. You know what I'm saying? And be like, and then it's so funny because those same people call me and they're like, boss, why aren't they calling you? And I'm like, fundamental question. Maybe I don't need to be in the same room with that energy in the first place, but we'd get so much further if we just put our heads together. I mean, they're literally back to now the corporate side. There's business models. Not to toot my own horn, but this is like real talk, right? Like, this is real talk. There's business models that I've implemented where when I was implementing them in that environment, they were seen as a threat that are now used as an industry standard. Yes. And no one has ever been like, oh, we actually learned this from you 8 years ago. So, just things like that. Like I don't operate out of malice. So I think the challenge is when you do meet people that operate with malice, that is the fundamental
and those people
challenge.
Have like power in their hands to kind of frustrate situations or.
But not too much power.
Okay.
Not too much power.
You should say thankfully.
They have power in their section.
Okay.
And that's why I say even, they would have power over. That's why, as I said, I don't need to be in environments like that, because if that's the hand that feeds you or the environment you need to return to on a daily basis, I move away from places like that. So they have power over their circle. I'm not in their circle.
Brilliant.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to check, like recently, because you have excellence in everything you do. And
I try though.
No, but that's how it looks.
Setting the bar a bit high. I'm like,
seriously, I mean, like, dude, like there's certain spaces which kind of have a glow or a gloss where you kind of like that represents me and my vibe. You know what I mean? That represents the level at which I want to operate and consume. Yeah, And so recently there was, the media institution that you were involved in heavily.
Right.
And I, for one, was enjoying that
Spring TV.
Yeah. And then I blink and it's not there. Yeah. I don't know if you want to vibe about that.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, as I said, for me, it's the story's not everyone hears.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't mind talking about them.
Yeah. I'm curious, but as to the degree that you're comfortable talking about it, because I obviously
I'm 100% comfortable.
Okay, so what happened? That's the question now.
Snakes. What happened? No, unfortunately, I partnered with somebody who is very dubious. I mean, straight up. I mean, to this day, they can't even look me in the face.
Yeah.
So as I said, the blessing in that was what I just described, to say you're no longer in those people's circles for a reason. But it was a harsh reality. Several, X amount of monies later and time spent and energy spent. And unfortunately, as I said, it did take a toll on me, because I also became very, very paranoid. sucked at relationships because I was just like, yo, who wants what from me now? Kind of thing, which is a very bad space to be in. But like, thank God he delivered me from that. And unfortunately, you know, it was, as I said, the pettiness gets so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like you are on the same team, né?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen this not just at spring level, but at other levels. And say you own Real Madrid and Ronaldo's playing for you, and you walk in there and you're like, Ronaldo, he scored a hat trick, eh? So you think you're the man. And I'm like, what? Boss, we won the game. But don't forget who made you, eh? Don't forget, that's my badge right there. You're like, whoa, bro, who hurt you, fam? So
hurt people.
Yeah, man. So I'm like, yo. So there was a lot of that, and unfortunately, my partners on spring, because one partner literally like left, like run away. And then the other person that came on board was also just very dodgy, very dubious.
Yeah.
And it was just, we don't want to see this young black guy succeed. And I'm like, but we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And you realize if I
win, we win.
If I win, we win. I mean, it was, I'll call a spade a spade. So they brought in some washed out, like, cats from SA, bro. Like, washed out. And I'm like, yo, I know people in SA. Like, I can cross-reference who makes sense over here, bro. It's like, no, they are fair-skinned. They are white people. They must know what they're doing. Fam, they didn't, bro. They did. I'm gonna call it spade a spade. I mean, this one person gets in there and they're like supposed to be my COO after they like frustrated Chuma, who I started that operation with day one. Yeah. So, you know, I'm there and this person goes, in my best are
you gonna try and
pray, you there, lock, you there. I have to bring out the policy exits and the guy's lock click, hey. Lock. First of all, you can tell this guy is like, what? I've got a young black boss. And and he goes in there and he's like, to the person that brought him in, he's like, yeah, this guy has done nothing, eh? Like several awards later. The same stuff you were saying you were enjoying. Yeah. So now the investor who brings him in is like, yeah, I'm told that there's nothing you're doing. And I'm like, well, according to who? Yeah. You know? So he's like, oh, by the way, I don't know what it is to like market or like sell. So I'm like, how are you as COO of this my company? Yeah. And you're like, what? Man, it was crazy. Wow. Yeah. So it was, but I've learned a lot because of that. And I think even a lot of my friends have just been like, you know what? You were actually a bit too kind to others and not myself. And not myself, and that's why
because at the time I'm assuming that your headspace was, let's make this brand fly, so you were, you know, in the slipstream of getting that to where you thought it should be, and maybe less
for everyone's sake,
exactly, and so not kind of, you know, looking back at yourself.
Yes, and that's what you're doing internally. And as I've said, it costs a lot of things because you're doing that and you're cutting time off with like loved ones. You're not giving them the attention they deserve because you're like, I'm doing this for us. You know, and as much as we are great communicators in our space, sometimes you're like, but can't you see what I'm building? Can't you see what I'm doing? And then the same person will even be like, you're so narcissistic and so focused on what you want to do. And you're like, yeah, but this empire will be for everybody, you know, that kind of thing. But you haven't communicated that yet. So there's a lot that I've learned from doing that. And as I said, the irony is people might be like, you were so like just focused on what you wanted to do. You were focused on yourself. The irony was I was not focused on myself.
Yeah, you're focused on
and I needed to be. I needed to be like what's healthy for me, you know.
What's the opposite of spring? It's dawn, right?
Yes.
Dawn TV. Let's start Dawn TV. No,
there's a red party that might already have a trademark on that one.
I hear you. I was actually going to ask like what lessons you learned, but you're already touching on those. But are there any other deep lessons? Because when I was, for instance, after moving to SA, I thought I'd be in media when I was at college. So I thought like college media, that's going to be my life. Okay. But it was actually college and I'm a waiter, you know. That became my reality. And at first I hated the fact that, you know, I'm a waiter. Whereas back home, I'm, you know, a radio celebrated dude. Yes. But then after a while, I realized, like, in the bigger scheme and in God's plan, me being a waiter at a restaurant for 1 year, 6 months taught me so much about the psyche of South Africans. Either the high earners, because those are the guys you're serving, or the everyday guy, because those are the guys you're working with at the back. And so I was basically at two colleges. I was at the college that I paid to attend, but the other side, I was at the college where I was working and finding out about the people in the country, and so that was the lesson that came from that. But from your experience with Spring, or any other venture that hasn't gone like you thought it would, are there any lessons that kind of have helped you to kind of get your headspace where you face forward? What's the word? Compass, forward facing. What?
Fimo direction.
Way to phrase the question, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, and you have indeed answered that in asking it, because you described it as school.
Yeah.
So for me, the lesson was everything is school.
Yeah.
Everything is school. And imagine if you could get paid to go to school. Like, people pay an arm and a leg for like MBAs and for like short courses. And, sometimes in life you get paid to be in school. Yeah. Your waitering job, you were being paid to be in school. Exactly, and that's why you described it as like, I was in 2 schools. Spot on. For me, that's how I look at a lot of situations. And some, do come with a check, and that's why I take them on. Like, I'll tell you now, when Dr. Aaron Mujajati called me to be spokesperson for Health Professions Council of Zambia, I was like, hey, Boma, doctors, what? I must speak on behalf of the medical staff of Zambia. Like, what do I know? That kind of thing. But he told me why he made that selection, and to this day, I'd like to think I left a really good reputation that side, and we made a lot of changes. Google those in the headlines. We were a formidable team. But it was like, you know what? The more I say I don't know this, but I'm qualified for it, then I've got to learn how to do it. And you're basically paying me to go back to school. So, so a lot of those situations, I think, are the lessons I've learned is when you get uncomfortable, a lot of people would pay for a short course in that. And sometimes you get it for free. Sometimes you're even paid to do it. So it's the lessons. It's really, really the lessons. And as I've said, it's been like that through a project like Spring, HPCZ, anything. Even just starting the breakfast show when I came back. I was still with a bank at the time. And I hadn't done a breakfast show. I hadn't done a show to an audience that size. And I was like, even that, we're gonna learn on the job. That kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm passing the mic over to Mr. Levi for a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
All right. So my first question is based on something earlier that you said, which was about attention, right? So how do you add value to the attention that people give you, whether it's in the radio space, in the media space, or even on a personal basis space? Because when someone's looking at you, they're giving you your time and your attention. So how do you add value to that particular interaction, whether it's digital or in person?
No, I mean, like, not to sound philosophical and once again, but life is a series of moments, and in those moments, whether it's a 30-second link or it's dinner between friends, or it's it's a conversation in a car, or it's you talking to a caponia on the street. One of the things that like one of my then partner used to say was like, you talk to everybody, like, and I'm like, they've given me that attention. So you try to add value in different ways. Sometimes it can just be like the guy at the gas station, and you can tell it's really hot, and you're just like, yo, man, this weather, brah, like, you crack a joke because he needs it. It can be like information someone needs. It can be a youngster, and you just want to like inspire them in that moment, or just show like you're curious about what they're doing. So we do it very, subconsciously. But to add value to it, I think, is where now it got into the career mode. So to add value to it, I've learned to say that, if you do get those 30 seconds on radio or whatever, you must also appreciate the audience. I remember we talked about this even in one of the radio summits, that Chilu came through with and we participated in. And he talked about the Bob Mabena having a picture. And I tell this story time and time again, because when he told me that story about Bob Mabena having this picture of some, young lady in a red dress from way back, and that's who he's forever talking to, I was like, because when I was doing radio, pictured 4 people in a car, you know, transiting at like 6:30. A mom, a dad, a daughter who's maybe like 13, 15, and then like a young boy who's like maybe 6 or 8. So in discussing sensitive topics, I had to like appeal to everybody. So if it was like a conversation like between mom and dad, and you know, something sensitive, like maybe it's something sexual, like maybe a rape case or something has come up, and you know, you're like, first of all, it's the morning, so we can't get too gruesome or whatever, but your duty is to get the point across. So don't tiptoe around it, but you deliver it in a way that your audience, you know, can appreciate it and needs to appreciate it. So that's how I basically add values. I try to put myself in the listener's position, like as much as possible. As I said, even the guy in the gas station, I'm like, bro, you're standing here in the sun, man. Like, let me, you know, let me make you smile for a brief second, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah.
And it's I love how you put it, because I think in my case as well, I often have those little interactions with people. I just pass it off as like, it's like a joke or just interaction with them in that way. But the value thing only came in with your words just a few minutes ago. So yeah, thanks for that. And on a different tone, a slightly darker tone, like how do you protect yourself from some of like the malice in the industry from people, whether it's jealousy, pettiness, gatekeeping, or people who just try to stop you from progressing because they view you as a threat? So like, how did you navigate that, and how do you protect yourself from that sort of influence?
Man, that is a daily lesson. I mean, I recently got my fingers burned on a project. Okay. So it's a daily lesson. It's still something I haven't mastered, but I think what has got me this far is really a faith in God. And one thing I really pray for is a spirit of dissemination. Like that I don't beat around the bush on. Okay. Because it could be the most enticing offer. It could be the flyest thing in a skirt. It could be anything, you know, that is like instantly appealing. But without a spirit of dissemination, man, like we are food. You know, we are lamb to the slaughters. So there is a certain degree of dissemination that I try to take little notes on, and that's why you find like I tend to gravitate to like day ones, you know, and the circle gets like smaller and smaller and smaller, and we start linking things, you know, like, oh, this is what happened, oh, this person is in my circle, oh, now that makes sense, and you know, and it's not by coincidence. It is not by coincidence. It's dissemination is something that I have really tried to strive for, to be like, what's the intention behind that? Because once again, you're giving your energy to something. It's not infinite. And you're also going to get energy, you know, back from something. So if you're getting the energy you're getting back is hate, like read it quickly and remove yourself from that situation.
And I love what you just said about, is it the dissemination? Because that spirit, because in my case as well, there's certain projects that will just come and I'm like, bro, I don't feel it. There's something fishy about this. Like, why did they leave out that piece of information? Who else why did they contact them and then they come and contact
you know
us?
What I'm saying?
Like, what are they implying? And this year, especially on my end, has been something that I've learned the hard way. So even now, when certain projects come my way, I have a partner who I work with in like the video space, and we always talk like, bro, what do you think of this? Like, where are they from? Who are they from? Like, no, okay, I don't think this will work well. So and my final question is on, when you started like your media company in a way, obviously you can't be everywhere at once and doing all the jobs. How did you pick your team, and also how did you trust them to do what they expected to do, but also lead them in a way that will get things done, like you just said? I think a great shortcut to anybody looking to put a team together for any type of project is let specialists be specialists. And then if you are the head of that project, I've always said my job is to empower the specialists, to give them the tools. All right. So whether it was, you know, my smaller companies or bigger companies like Spring, we ended up with a staff of like 88, you know, in total. And one thing I'd always say is, like, if you're going to come with a problem, please come with a problem and the solution, especially if you're going to get to the head of the project. Okay. Because the same thing, I told people like, yo, open door policy, but my time is very precious. Your time is very precious. So don't come to me with like petty issues. Okay. Come to me with good problems. Tell me like, hey, boss, you know what?
I've got an interview, right, with Donald Trump, and I need to be on a plane tomorrow. Like, let me sweat over that, rather than, no, you see, what had happened is, and I'm like, oh, so did you go to accounts and get a requisition for those their batteries that just ran out? Yeah. That kind of thing. So when specialists are specialists, it makes life so much easier. And it also helps you as a leader. As I've said, your role, you wake up literally to make their job better and to make them excel. We had a phrase with Chuma saying, leave impossible at the gate. And we like good problems. So when someone would come to me with a problem, you're also hired to know the solution. So from the word go, you can't run everything by remote when you start a project. So you have to know the foundation. You have to know what you want. In knowing what you want, you find the right people, the right specialists. In finding those people, your job now changes to equipping those specialists to be the best that they can be. And I think that's pretty much the stages of how it works. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, be prepared for people to outgrow you. Like I like stories of people outgrowing. I'll show my team and be like, yo, can you believe I was in ball camp with this guy or with this guy, and we got pictures as kids, and I'm like, yeah, now this guy earns like $40 million a season. I'm like, I want those stories like where I'm like, what do you mean? Levi, no, you don't. You've never been in the same room with Levi. Call him if you think so. Just a segue. I tell a funny story to Roberto all the time. I'm like, he really embarrassed me in Cape Town because there's a time I was flown out for Ultra. Shout out Heineken. It was an amazing tour. And I get there and there's all these people from around the world. And there's this team I was partying with from South Sudan. And they're like, oh, you're from Zambia. And it's like really loud. Like, yeah, I'm from Zambia. It's like, yeah. Amarula. Yeah, Roberto. Yeah, that's my boy. And then suddenly it's like the music stops and they're like, man, you cool. You're not that cool. You don't know Roberto. I was like, to this day, I tell them, I'm like, yo, you made me look like a punk, bro. I was like, I'll show you now. I'll show you. It's just not dialing. I was playing ball with it. And they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. Come on, fam. So, I love stories like that where people like really excel and, you got to spend time with them and they're doing what they do, So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
I also have a Roberto story.
He's traumatized you too,
yeah.
This was like
in Mauritius, bro. And they have a day which they call Music Day.
Okay.
So we were there filming something for Barclays back then. And I walk into a shopping mall, then I hear da la 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 la, and it's a band playing. Then my name is Roberto. I'm like, oh, Roberto's over here.
Yeah.
And the crowd's going wild, and I go there, and it's a band,
cover band. Yo,
like in the between the songs they were speaking in Creole or whatever language it was, not even in English.
So they even did the whole "My name is Roberto" like Jason Derulo, like how he signed off.
Even that,
wow,
man. Roberto video, like, bro, this is just happened there.
Oh,
so
man.
Anyway, as we're shouting them out, my last little story, and then I'll get you to close off, right? When you're speaking of value, like you were sharing just now with Levi, I always say this story, like in the Bible, there's that whole Joseph story, you know, when he comes out of jail to have an audience with Pharaoh. And a lot of people read that story, I think, and they just kind of see the spiritual side to it. Like, this guy got a promotion because he translated the dream of Pharaoh. Like, there'll be 7 bad years, 7 good years.
Yeah.
But I always think that it's because of what happened after that. Because Pharaoh then says, so how are we going to do this thing?
Right.
And then he offers the solution. So he gets the promotion, not based on the fact that, spiritual, I can translate dreams, but more because of I can, he's identified as a guy who can then unlock the solution. So similar to what you were saying. Just want to send you your flowers, man. Do you say send your flowers or give your flowers? Give. Yeah, okay. We give you your flowers,
either way, I'm taking them.
Take
whether
them.
you sent them, whether you couriered them.
That's all, man. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank
we
you.
We applaud you all.
Thank you, sir, man. This is always a dream come true, man, to do any bit of work with you, to always link up with you. It's always a good vibe. So yeah, more power to you, man. Let's get this.
And it's a wrap.
Get it.